To the challenge, and they were very precise when they needed to be as well. They were always a threat. Leicester never really got into their rhythm. They huffed and puffed in the second half, tried to match Southampton up as best they could, and scrap away with them. But you have to say, overall, that Southampton will certainly feel that they were deserving of the 3 points, and I don't think you'll get too many people who will contest that argument.
Yeah, they go off to their pocket of travelling fans who have made the long journey from the south coast. They rightly applaud them, and the fans applaud the Saints players. Man of the match time, Matt. It's a tough one on a day like this.
Yeah, it is. It is. Not many standout performances. I thought Praet battled valiantly in midfield, got himself a goal, tried to make an impression without always achieving that. Maddison came into his own at the last stage of the game. Got to sprinkle his magic and create something for Leicester, which he did on a couple of occasions. But Leicester couldn't really capitalise on that. Aside from that, I don't think there was too much in terms of individual performances, other than, and it's a sign, it's a reflection of how the game went. I think Kasper Schmeichel, deserves a bigger mention as anyone. A great double save in the first half from Ings when Ings was clean through. One or two other instances as well, and he came out. What a save from Ings later on as well, after Redmond had set him up. Ings was the main man, by the way, wasn't he? Hit the crossbar twice. Could have and should have scored on a different couple of occasions. Got the winner. Very impressive, wasn't he? But I think Schmeichel did his utmost to resist him. But even the Great Dane couldn't keep him down, could he? Keep him under. But just about Kasper Schmeichel shade it.
Well, what a difference 78 days makes. Back in October, Friday night, Leicester beat Southampton by 9-0. Today, on January the 11th, it is Southampton who have beaten Leicester City. Danny Ings with yet another Premier League goal. He and Saints celebrate on the pitch beneath us here at King Power Stadium. Full-time score, Leicester 1, Southampton 2.
Thanks very much, Chris. More from Matt Elliott to come. Matt, get yourself into the studio out of the cold and we'll have more discussion. Also, Jerry Taggart and Nev Folger with their comments to come very soon after a disappointing afternoon at the King Power Stadium for Leicester City. Elsewhere, it finished Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1 in the early game in the Premier League. Aubameyang scoring for Arsenal, then later getting sent off. Jordan Ayew equalising for Palace. At Stamford Bridge, it finished Chelsea 3, Burnley 0. Jorginho, Abraham and Callum Hudson-Odoi with the goals for Chelsea. Everton beat Brighton 1-0 thanks to Richarlison's first half strike. At Old Trafford, it finished Manchester United 4, Norwich City 0. A brace for Marcus Rashford, goals from Anthony Martial and also from Greenwood made it 4-0 to Manchester United. And it finished all square at Molineux. Wolves 1, Newcastle 1. Almiron for Newcastle opening the scoring. Dendoncker replying for Wolves. We will get a full rundown of the scores from all across the football leagues throughout the show today, but let's get straight back in to the analysis of Leicester City's disappointing 2-1 defeat against Southampton. More to come from Nev Folger very shortly, but first the full-time thoughts of Jerry Taggart.
Again, credit to Southampton, you have to say. They outworked Leicester. Better second half, you have to say, from Leicester. They got themselves involved in what I was speaking about at half-time. They had to get involved in a bit of a war of attrition. We thought they were coming out the other side. We're more of a goal threat in the second half than they were in the first half. But you've got to credit Southampton. They kept plugging away, and then, when it dropped to them, that man, Danny Ings, sealed Leicester's fate tonight. Leicester probably... Well, they did. They looked a little bit tired, which is understandable given what they've been involved in over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And that, in the end, was a factor in the outcome of this result. So you can't really fault the performance. The Weller played its part, I thought, as well. But I thought Southampton played the conditions better than Leicester. So no complaints.
Nev, for you, second half, fight back, got them, they were trying to get themselves back in the game, trying to get that upper hand, but it was Southampton who took the points.
Yeah, I don't think Leicester can complain, to be honest, Lewis. It was a better second half. I agree with Jerry. Leicester got themselves involved more. He made, 2 or 3 substitutions. I thought, Iniacho, well, I thought he'd scored with the first touch, and then that was offside. I think there was 3 or 4 offside goals tonight by VAR. But they were all correct. If you looked at them, they were all correct. There couldn't be any real complaint about the VAR decisions tonight. 1 or 2 were close, but they all, to me, look to be on the right side. I don't think there could be any complaints. I agree with Jerry. I thought Leicester did look a bit tired. He's now got a complete week. I think the next match is next Saturday, isn't it?
Sunday.
Yeah, or Sunday. So, yeah, he's got 8 days. And I think he's going to need them. The players need a bit of rest. Probably, we said the turning point for Southampton was that 9-0 defeat by Leicester back in October. They've used that today as well for what they wanted to do. And you could see what it meant to them at the end with the way they celebrated with their fans. I think it was them, the players, telling the fans, well, at least we've given you something today, to make up for what happened down at St Mary's in October.
With Southampton using the 9-0 result as a catalyst, could you see actually today's result working as that for Leicester, a little bit of a grounding and let's go back to the drawing board. Where are we at the moment?
Absolutely. Sometimes, again, it's pretty impossible. I know it's been done before by Arsenal, but it's pretty impossible to go through a season without getting beaten. It's the 5th defeat of the season, and it's no shame in that whatsoever. Today was a day where Leicester, sitting in second, were expected to beat a team sitting in 12th, who'll have already beat 9-0, a record equaling score. But that just shows you why football is such a great game, because no one can really predict. And there's so many ebbs and flows within a season. And that's why I speak about the games that Leicester have been involved in the run-up to this game, where Southampton haven't had as many games. And they just looked hungry. And of course they would have used that 9-0. And so on the flip side of that, Brendan Rodgers would have been absolutely dying to get through this game with even a draw. He knew how difficult this game was going to be. He's seen Southampton's recent form, their recent run of results. He knows that this was not going to be an easy game. So if he had come out with a slight win, that's why I went for a 1-0. It ended up being 2-1. A couple of people, Nev went 2-1. I think Matt went 2-1. It ended up 2-1 to the opposition. But if he had come out of this game with any kind of result, and a tight win, a score draw, whatever, he'd have been happy with that, because he knows he's got the whole of next week for the players to recover, get back to some more normality as far as the training schedule is concerned, go through the things they need to go through in the lead up to that game against Burnley. So there's a lot of things that have gone against Brendan Rodgers and his players in the run up to this game. Obviously, all the news was about the 9-0. How they got. You have to credit Southampton. Say nothing about Leicester, barring 1 or 2 issues with individuals, but on the whole, Southampton deserve the win today. It's as simple as that.
Definitely.
Yeah, lots of people getting in touch. Obviously, many very, very disappointed, obviously, with Leicester dropping points. I lost one message, but it simply said 9-0 a couple of months ago, 2-1 today. Welcome to the Premier League. Obviously, very different games. Nick says, we've been poor since Christmas and possession means nothing unless you're scoring goals. The tactics need to change. We'll talk about tactics very soon. Sue says, Southampton deserved to win. Most of our players weren't at their best today. Helen says that the lads need to get that flame ignited again, or their hard work over the last year could be for nothing. Southampton deserved that, says Lee. We didn't look like we had the pace today. We never really got going. And Mark says, calm down, Foxes. The best team on the day won. No complaints. It's just about keeping in perspective, isn't it, Matt? And just trying to think, where are Leicester at right now? And how can they improve on the last couple of performances?
Yeah, no, that's right. I think... it's a bit harsh saying, we haven't performed since Christmas. or you could even go back before that if you want. Norwich, Man City, Liverpool, but they have turned it around to an extent. That little mini trot of bad results and performances. With the West Ham, Newcastle, they're back to being impressive again, and they haven't hit the heights of late, certainly that they did earlier in the season. But as Jerry mentions there, you don't get a constant level of performance. It fluctuates. It goes below the line probably more than it goes above that line. But by and large, Leicester City fans haven't got anything. I don't think you'll find many haven't got anything to moan about. Where we are in the league, that might change minimally after this weekend, but still going to be well and truly cemented in the top four. It's been a little bit of a blip, I suppose. The fact that it was against a team, not only did it beat 9-0, but again, as Jerry says there, a team. This is the first time it hasn't been big time opposition, if you like, for want of a better word. Man United, Liverpool, Man City, who've beaten them before. Some people won't be able to get their head round, will they? The fact that you can't beat a team 9-0 and lose, or you must have been, you can't have been at it. You must have been complacent. I don't think certainly the latter was applicable today, because Southampton were just properly.
They were fired up
on
today,
it today, weren't they?
They were fired up.
But they're a totally different side, but they looked, well drilled. They all understood their roles. They'd obviously gone through trying to nullify Leicester's game in terms of letting them play out. And there's a few players at Leicester who, bizarrely, despite how well Leicester are doing generally, certain individuals just a little bit bereft of confidence, aren't they, I think, and just need a little bit of fine-tuning, a bit of assistance and an adjustment to their game, maybe, as do Leicester generally, because maybe teams are not working Leicester out, but they're coming to terms with how Leicester played, and then they've got to be varying their game a touch.
Yeah, Wendy's been in touch saying something was lacking today. Can you put your finger on exactly what the something was, Nev, or is it a kind of accumulation?
I think it's a sort of accumulation. I think today you've got to give Southampton all the credit, because they came with a game plan to stop Leicester playing, and they were aggressive. Their physicality, I said at half time, was more than Leicester's. They were winning all the sort of 50-50 balls. And they could have had more goals. I mean, Ings had 2 or 3 chances, didn't he, of scoring? And Schmeichel, Matt made him man of the match. Yeah, I probably agree, because I can't think of an outfield player who played sort of outstandingly. I don't think it was a case of Leicester being complacent. I think it was a case of Southampton being really motivated. They will have spent this week talking about losing 9-0, and let's get some reward back for that. They're in a good run themselves. It carried on today, and for me, they fully deserve to win.
Yeah, Southampton came with a game plan. Leicester possibly found themselves fortunate to be taking the lead in this one, if we go back as far as the first half, because they did lead this game.
Yeah, as you said, I thought Southampton basically simplified their game. It was more accustomed to a style of football me and Matt would have been used to playing. Basically not rolling it out from the back, not forcing it out from the back through the thirds, all that kind of stuff. Playing the conditions well, especially in the first half. They slept at a free kick. They fell asleep at a free kick, and Leicester took full advantage of that. But up until that point, and subsequently for the rest of the first half, Southampton were well worth a draw at least, going in at 1-1. You have to say that. They looked lively, they looked sharp, they were combative, they were winning all the first contacts, they were winning a lot of the 50-50 second contacts, second phases of play. And Leicester found it a struggle, and I just think that when that happens, because we haven't seen that this season from anybody out of the 4 games that they've lost to, that they were just second to near enough every ball in that first half, and that to me boils down to a bit of tiredness. And I'm not making excuses, but things I've seen today I've not seen this season. So a bit of tiredness, a bit of lack of confidence in 1 or 2 players as well. and things just didn't go their way. Simple as that. And that's all credit to Southampton for playing a certain style of football and playing the conditions very well indeed.
Yeah, Southampton came out second half just as well, to be fair. Stevens cleared off the line, obviously, by Soyuncu very early on. Then Evans himself had a header cleared off the line at the other end. But it was that penalty decision, wasn't it? And then an offside given. Let's talk about VAR quickly, because actually, Jerry, if we look at what we were talking about pre-match, as you said, Johnny Evans' goal at the end of the game, absolutely fair. That was clear and obvious. But you probably would have said that they should have had a penalty because that was so minimal on Shane Long being offside.
Yeah, if the referee's blown for the penalty, I thought he had actually shown a yellow card.
To Soyuncu.
To Soyuncu, I thought he actually...
He did, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
But then obviously it's gone back. And I think the problem that everybody has, including myself, is when you give an offside for the width of a hair. And that is not clear and obvious.
Yeah, no, I know. No.
And I thought...
But even then, I agree with you, because that's what it's meant to have been brought in for, isn't it?
Clear and obvious.
But then there's not a clear and obvious ruling on it, which, muddles muddles everything. But the other thing is, at what stage does something become clear and obvious and then clear and obvious?
Well, if you can't separate the lines, it's not clear and obvious.
I'm just saying, so, like, at what stage? When people say there should be...
If you've got a line and a line next to it and there's no gap between that line, but that's not clear and obvious offside.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Johnny Evans
I'm with you on that
one
instance.
there was a gap of whatever, a couple of inches. That's clear and obvious.
But when you've got always a cut-off point, isn't there? There's always a cut-off, right? Because you go, okay, right, we'll give them a bit of a grey area to a benefit
I know
of the doubt.
There's a cut-off point. I know there's a cut-off point, and I know that's a rule. But what I'm saying is one line on top of another line with no gaps, is that clear and obvious? Is the question I'm at. And the answer to that is no, it's not, even though that is the cut-off point is one line next to another is offside.
But then they say there should be a grey area or whatever. You should, of 10 centimetres, for argument's sake. But what happens when it's 10 centimetres and
1 millimetre,
like half a millimetre apart? And again, do you know what I mean? There's always something. But
if there's a gap between the lines, between the offside line and the attacker's line, and you can see fresh air or grass, whatever it is on the screen, then it's offside.
What, even an inch?
Yeah. But when you've got one line on top of another line, and they just so happen to draw underneath it, they said
two become one.
But then
there's a song about that.
Yeah, but we go back,
and that's where it becomes ridiculous.
It's
absolutely,
it should be that clear and obvious.
But we go back to what we said before the game started, that if you're going to have VAR, the referee on the field should be going to the sidelines and looking at it himself.
See, I'm not that fussed about that. I don't always get that, because two reasons. One, he's under more pressure, and if it's categorical, maybe be part of it. Maybe
no, but we were speaking about.
But sometimes you make a wrong decision. Are you going to overturn your own decision?
But we were speaking about West Ham's goal last night that was given for handball.
Yeah. When
the Sheffield United defender heads the ball onto Declan Rice's hand.
Yeah.
And they're right next to each other. There's no way Declan Rice could get, and yet it's given for handball. And that's when the referee, in those instances, needs to go over to the screen's there, but no one ever. I don't even know why the ball are bringing the screen these days, because no one ever looks at it. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah,
money,
but then the referee who's in Stockley Park, he should be able to see that. I don't know what the big difference is between the match referee.
The rule is if the attacking player handles the ball at any stage in the lead up to a goal.
No, I know that. I know the rule.
That's the rule, but then that's when the referee needs to take things into his own hand and say, no, hold on a minute. Let's see how this all transpired. Let me go and watch it on the screen. Show me it from the minute Rice picks the ball up to when the goal scores.
I don't see what's the importance of the ref on the pitch doing it rather than
because he's not relying on Stockley Park's decision. He'll make his own mind up because he's in the thick of the action.
The problem today as well.
People have this thing about it. I don't quite get it myself.
But the problem today as well with that ruled out goal.
Which one?
Where it was given as a penalty. rings, right? And Ings was just offside. But the game carried on. The ball's gone into the penalty area. The referee has blown his whistle, signalled a penalty, and it was a clear penalty, and given a yellow card to Soinchu. Then it comes up on screen that the VAR is looking at the penalty. But in fact, it wasn't looking at the penalty, it was looking at the offside.
Well, I'd be looking at both.
Yeah. And then it spots, whoever sees it, spots him offside, so he's offside. What happens then is the whole thing of the match changes because there's no penalty. So if there's no penalty, there can be no foul by Soinchu because it doesn't count. So he's got to have a yellow card rescinded.
Yeah, which he will.
Yeah, but what happens if? That could have been his fifth yellow card or anything. So I know what Matt is saying. Unless there is a stoppage fairly quickly after the offside, when do you get a point where that doesn't? The referees wave play on, and then you get a period of play, and something else happens like that. Should the offside actually come into play, or is there an area where you say, well, the game's gone on for 30 seconds after that? That's ruled out now.
Well, VAR is something we can talk about. We won't get any further with it.
On.
It doesn't actually affect today's result. It would have actually, what we're talking about, Southampton would have gone further in the lead.
Absolutely.
They were worthy winners at King Power Stadium. Leicester 1, Southampton 2. The 1+ point for Leicester was the first goal for Dennis Praet, and we can hear from him now.
Dennis, overall, you have to say that was a very frustrating afternoon.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't our best performance. It's a hard loss for us because we don't like to lose at home. But we weren't at our best, so I think we didn't really deserve to win today.
Can you chalk it down as one of those games? Because obviously you had the ball in the net a number of times, VAR overturning those.
Yeah, maybe. And I think also we come from a very long period with a lot of games. Every week we had 2 games. So I'm happy that we can have rest for 1 week now, and we give our 100% focus on the next game.
How important do you think this next week can be in your season, as you say, to have a bit of rest, have a bit of recovery?
Yeah, it will be important because, like I told you, we had a lot of games in the last weeks, and now we can freshen up a little bit and go 100% for the next game.
From the negativity around the result, obviously there was a positive. You scored your first Leicester City goal. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, it felt really good at the moment, of course, because it was the 1-0. But after the game, I feel mostly sad because we couldn't win.
When you saw the ball coming across, you were pointing where you wanted it from Jamie Vardy. It was a fantastic ball across, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a perfect pass, perfect assist from Jamie. Yeah, it was really well done from him.
Obviously, the team will want to respond from this. From you personally, how much can scoring your first goal for Leicester motivate you now moving forward?
Yeah, it feels good for me. It's good for my confidence also, I think. And we will see next week that we will be there back as a team and get those 3 points.
Dennis Praet talking to LCFC Radio's Dan Bates there following today's game. Leicester City 1, Southampton 2 at King Power Stadium. Praet scoring the goal, but being pretty honest in his assessment, and did say Southampton were the better team. We didn't deserve to win today, but we do need a rest. When the players are starting to say that, you think, okay, usually things get covered up like that, and they say, no, we're fine, we'll keep going. But there's some honesty there from Dennis Praet.
Yeah, but I think that is a factor in how they play. You know, the fixture congestion and all that. You know, there's a lot of games over the period and this stage of the season, whatever. But I don't know. I only use it up to a certain degree, to be honest, because the team's been quite well rotated, hasn't it? They haven't been flogged, have they? You know, everyone's had a little bit of break. Everyone's had a respite. Johnny Evans aside, probably, and you know he's still, even he got 1 game rest, didn't he? Was it against Wigan?
Yep.
In that game.
I think maybe sometimes as well, it's the style of play. It's the high press, high tempo.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I can.
Yeah, you can't do that week in, week out. I think Southampton suffered from that for a while. You mentioned it in the commentary before. Like when the Arsenal first came, they were steaming into teams, and then all of a sudden, the edge come off their game. So maybe a bit of that to be full on all the time, Tags, over a long period of time. But so then you've got to adapt your game maybe and show other attributes that you've got. Individually as well, you've got to show you can keep the ball in pressurised situations sometimes and play your way out. But only to a level. Because they didn't look like they were dead on their feet or anything, Leicester. Of the two teams, Southampton did look the sharper. But is that a mindset, like more than an actual physical difference in them? I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I just think they were more fired up than Leicester.
They did look more.
There was that fired up.
Mindset's the majority of your game, because your mindset will take you through.
Dictates your physical. How you feel physically, exactly.
Of course it will. Yeah. So are they mentally tired as well as physically tired?
Yeah. There could be an element of that, and that's all part of becoming top level, like high level professional athletes, footballers or whatever. It is, to have that discipline to push yourself through and we're going to get ourselves up for this game, whatever it is. Because psychologically, some of them they can drop down a level or two because of who the opposition is, and they can let little external reasons get into them a little bit, even if it's subconsciously.
I mean, crazily almost, the 9-0 win at Southampton has rebounded now on Leicester, in the fact that Southampton, for me, were so fired up for today that they probably played even above the level they've been playing.
Have done of late,
Yeah, Chris has added
there was an edge there, wasn't there?
Yeah, he said Southampton had a great motivation, having been beaten 9-0 earlier in the season. They needed this to restore their own pride. However, he'd said it had to happen sometime, and we're still in the top three and punching above our weight in the Premier League. Shows we'll need to maybe add to the overall team strength, however. That's Chris's point. Thank you for getting in touch. We'll get through as many of your points as possible. One thing we haven't spoken about is the winning goal from Southampton. And an unfamiliar situation, really, Tags. We haven't seen a striker really one-on-one at any point this season, have we?
It doesn't spring to mind where, a team has had a little passing phase in that midfield area and then went, boom, see you later, and they're away, and it's a great time run. And if you look back at it again, you see Johnny Evans, who's 2 or 3 yards back from Soyuncu and the defenders. It was Soyuncu and Ricardo, but Ings has run off the back of Ricardo, which again, you don't see that too often. And it's Evans who, because he's the deepest, and he knows he's the deepest, and he's tried to correct, and he's tried to play, he's tried to play the offside trap by standing still. So there's a little bit of incoherence in that back line in the lead up to that goal, which we have not seen very often, you have to say. So again, why has that happened? That's why Ings was able to get in behind. It's a good finish, first time finish. He's a top striker. We talked about him. In those kind of situations, he doesn't need a second opportunity. He bangs them in.
Good player, Ings, by the way.
Good player. But
he'll probably be disappointed today as a striker.
Well, because he could have had a hat-trick.
He could have had a lot more.
Yeah, without a doubt. But that's the kind of player he is. He is a player who will get goal-scoring opportunities in every game he plays.
He's unlucky with that injury he got at Liverpool.
Massive.
If he could have really made it. Now, he still could. He's still young enough to really shine, isn't he? But
you're right to say, it's not often you see players get in behind and stretch Leicester's backline. So there's reasons for that happening. And, and especially when it came to the contact situation in the middle of the pitch. When the ball's brought down, there's a little swivel on the halfway line. Then it's a little 1-2, and then the ball's played through. Again, would that have happened 5-6 weeks ago? Would that have happened if indeed he was in the team? These are all the questions that Brendan Rodgers will be trying to ask himself, as well as his other staff members.
Yeah, because Max, it wouldn't have been just from that goal, but just moments later, they got in behind again. Ings had a chance at Schmeichel tip round the post, where they got in down the side, square across, and Ings was all on his own.
Yeah, there was a bit of a mix-up with Evans and Chowdhury, wasn't it? And Redmond came 2v1, wasn't it? You thought, oh, here we go. They're really going to hammer home their advantage now. And just squared it. I thought the ball was just a little bit too square. If he played it in front, because Ings rightly had sort of held his run, he's inviting Redmond to go and play it in front, and I'll just slot this home. Played it properly square, so he had to adjust himself. The confidence he's got, he took it first time because to make sure he might have had a touch and then he might have got closed down. But it was decent enough finish, in fairness. Great save from Schmeichel. Which could have been hugely influential, wasn't it? If I don't know if Evans had been 6 inches away from goal, not been offside, whatever, that would have been a vital piece of action by Schmeichel. But sadly, wasn't to be. But Ings, I've always liked him. He's so neat, isn't he? He very rarely loses possession. But I was just watching him in the warm-up, and he was quality there, just little dinks there, lifts it over players' feet, and he's different levels.
He's hungry, isn't he? He's hungry.
Yeah.
He's a hungry player. He's got a point to prove because he's been out for so long.
Yeah, exactly. He's got catching up to do, isn't he?
Southampton have given him an opportunity to play Premier League football after a long time out, and that's what happens when you've got a quality player who's hungry. He scores goals.
That's 14 now. Isn't it 14 for him?
Matt, just before we let you go, just a word on a couple of people getting in touch, just saying, has Leicester City's bubble burst? Is there a reason for panic now that they've lost this game today?
Oh, well, there's never a reason for panic. Panic doesn't do anyone any good, does it? But no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, Birch was on the pitch before the start of the game, reminding the fans. Obviously, it's a message that the club wants to relay, to a level. But this wonderful club, everything that Birch does gets the fans going. But maybe they could sense there's an element of frustration. But weirdly, the position that Leicester City are in, there's little bits that people speak about need improving, which is a good thing, I think. We've always said there's room for improvement, and perhaps there's more improvement, required than we realise. But when you look at it, second stroke third in the league now, semi-final, I would say still favourites, the Carabao Cup, fourth round the FA Cup, huge possibility of Champions League football. Don't forget where you were not so long ago, and they're all massively positive aspects of the situation for Leicester at the moment. And young players coming through, a top-class manager, some real top-class seasoned professionals there, youth coming through.
New training grounds.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Everything's
do you want me to go on and on? All of a sudden, things. Like we said before, they very rarely just tick along at a nice even pace or even a steady incline. There's dips and there's highs and lows, even when it's an upward spiral. And at the moment, it's a little bit sticky, but they're still producing results out of it as well. And as many a club would like to be in as bad a position as Leicester, put it that way.
Matt Elliott, thank you for your time on Matchday Live today. You're listening to LCFC Radio. It's just coming up to 5:30, so let's hear what's happened across the country.
This is the classified football results check for Saturday the 11th of January, starting with the Premier League. Chelsea 3, Burnley 0. Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1. Everton 1, Brighton & Hove Albion 0. Leicester City 1, Southampton 2. Manchester United 4, Norwich City 0. Tottenham Hotspur versus Liverpool is a 5:30 kick-off. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Newcastle United 1. Sky Bet Championship. Barnsley 2, Huddersfield Town 1. Blackburn Rovers 1, Preston North End 1. Brentford 3, Queen's Park Rangers 1. Charlton Athletic 2, West Bromwich Albion 2. Hull City 0, Fulham 1. Leeds United 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2. Luton Town 1, Birmingham City 2. Middlesbrough 2, Derby County 2. Reading 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Stoke City 0, Millwall 0. Wigan Athletic 0, Bristol City 2. League 1, Bristol Rovers 0, Doncaster Rovers 2. Burton Albion 1, Fleetwood Town 0. Coventry City 1, Milton Keynes Dons 1. Ipswich Town 4, Accrington Stanley 1. Oxford United 1, Rotherham United 3. Peterborough United 0, Gillingham 0. Portsmouth 2, AFC Wimbledon 1. Rochdale 2, Bolton Wanderers 0, Shrewsbury Town 1, Lincoln City 1, Southend United 0, Tranmere Rovers 0, Sunderland 4, Wycombe Wanderers 0. League 2, Carlisle United 0, Plymouth Argyle 3, Cheltenham Town 3, Walsall 1, Crawley Town 2, Bradford City 1, Exeter City 2, Cambridge United 0, Leyton Orient 1, Grimsby Town 1, Macclesfield Town 1, Oldham Athletic 1, Mansfield Town 3, Forest Green Rovers 4, Morecambe 1, Colchester United 1, Salford City 1, Northampton Town 2, Scunthorpe United 1, Newport County 2, Stevenage 0, Port Vale 1, Swindon Town 3, Crewe Alexandra 1.
So for the first time in 2020, King Power Stadium hosts Premier League football, and 78 days to be exact on from that barely believable record-breaking night on the south coast. Leicester City take on Southampton once again. Ricardo's form has sort of displaced him as Harvey Barnes gives it away really poorly. Danny Ings, heavy touch, but he's got it back. Ings is in on goal. Kasper Schmeichel makes a great save, back to Ings. Schmeichel saves again. Phenomenal double save from Kasper Schmeichel to bail Leicester City out. Quickly taken free kick from Perez is a good one. Vardy's into the box, squares in. Dennis Praet does the rest. His first Leicester City goal. It's come against the run of play, but he won't care because Leicester City leads Southampton. To the left, and Shane Long, who crosses in towards the edge of the box. It comes all the way through to Armstrong. Left-footed shoots, deflected in. I think you hear James Ward-Prowse. Stuart Armstrong runs off and celebrates. And Leicester's lead didn't last long, 1-1. Maddison went over, referee plays on, it's back with Armstrong, who crosses in towards the near post. Ings has hit the bar. Well, he connected with that perfectly. And that is a huge chance, which has come and gone. Here comes the corner from Ward-Prowse, swung in dangerously. Evans is up with a heroic clearance under pressure from two. Still is bouncing around, eventually driven goalwards. Off of the left boot of Ings, who snaps from his right foot. He's hit the bar again, this time from 25 yards. Well, that would have been a special strike. But wow, how on earth is this game still 1-1? Maddison to take, swings it in dangerously. Evans was up, what a save that is! Alex McCarthy. Oh, here is Ings. Ings is in on goal. Flag stays down, and he's poked it in. It beats Kasper Schmeichel. Danny Ings, the man in form, has scored. And now Southampton are breaking, and Redmond has it, and he's got Ings in acres of space on the penalty spot. What a save from Schmeichel to his left-hand side to keep Leicester City alive in this second half. Now Ricardo infield to James Maddison, who turns away from Højbjerg and plays the ball forward, looking for Ian Atcher, drops to Tielemans, back to Ian Atcher, in the box, left-footed, great save, McCarthy again! Kelechi Iheanacho denied. Here comes the free kick, free header! What an equalising goal! The flag has stayed down, and it's Johnny Evans! Flag goes up, goal disallowed, and Southampton fans are cheering. Chilwell has it, but there goes the full-time whistle. Ralph Hasenhüttl almost falls over as he celebrates. And for only the fifth time this season in the Premier League, Leicester City are beaten.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
Yes, disappointing afternoon for Leicester City. Finishes Leicester 1, Southampton 2. At King Power Stadium. They currently sit in second place in the Premier League table, 45 points, played 22. Manchester City, of course, have a game in hand. They play tomorrow. They've got 44 points. If they win that, obviously, they will leapfrog at Leicester City. But that's how it looks at the moment. Out in front still, Liverpool are top, 58 points. And the way they've started against Tottenham, Jerry, you feel like they might extend that.
Yeah, well... they've just hit the post. They've just had an attack, a shot on goal, and then hit the post with a rebound. And very early on in that game, they just seemed to be controlling the pace of it. So, they're looking good, Liverpool, you have to say.
Yeah, go on, Nev.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned Manchester City and Liverpool, and despite all the euphoria around Leicester, it has to be, said that Leicester are still not in the grade that Manchester City and Liverpool are. That's the next step up, isn't it? Though,
and that takes time.
Oh,
that takes 2-3 windows.
It's a youthful side. But when you see Liverpool and Manchester City both playing, say, at their very best, they are a step above everybody else, and that includes Leicester. Leicester have done well to get into that top 4, which obviously will be the plan still in the last part of the season. But there is a big stepping up to do between Leicester and those two.
It takes time. Brendan's been here just short of a year. He's had, this is the second window. You look at Jurgen Klopp, you look at Pep Guardiola, have been in the job 3 years.
Yeah.
Klopp more than 3 years. So they're getting what they want. They're getting what they want in. They're getting what they want out of the club, and they're getting what they want on the pitch, on the training ground, and that's being replicated on the pitch.
Yeah.
And that's where Brendan needs time. Now, if you put Brendan Rodgers in his first year, Jurgen Klopp in his first year, and Pep Guardiola in his first year, then Brendan Rodgers comes out on top for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that tells you that Leicester are a club on the up.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
But that's why Brendan himself keeps saying there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
We must improve. And there is a lot of room for improvement, and there are going to be setbacks, like today. People are saying disappointing. I just thought it was more frustrating today than disappointing.
Well, we can hear what he has to say about today's game because Dan Bates has been talking to Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan, a disappointing afternoon in truth. What's your assessment of that?
Yeah, exactly that. The performance probably didn't merit anything from the game. The players kept going right to the end and kept fighting. But it was a game that probably we haven't seen too many of those here this season. The game was very broken. There was no real fluency in the game. Lots of first, second balls. But ultimately, we didn't defend well enough. Didn't press the game strong enough or well enough. And then when we had the ball, we couldn't. We made too many mistakes when we had the ball. So it looked like up till the end it was going to be a draw, which we would have taken because we didn't play well. However, they play through a midfield too easy, and then they get in and get the goal. So a disappointing result for us.
I guess, as you were alluding to, a positive you can take is that we haven't seen this much at all here this season.
No. I think in my time here, we at home we've been very, very good. We had a performance against Newcastle that wasn't quite up to our level, and of course Liverpool were a better team than us and won the game that evening. But today it was on the back of a lot of games, and I don't really want to use the fatigue element because if we're going to be successful, we're going to be playing lots of games, but we need to be stronger in lots of moments that we were in today. But congratulations to them. They get the result. We'll go away and be better next week.
There's a whole week now, a break. There's no midweek game, which we've seen, as you've alluded to, a lot of midweek games recently. How important do you think this week will be?
Yeah, they're all important, but I think it allows the players to go away physically and emotionally and have a rest because it's been such a hectic schedule through December up until now. This is the first chance where we get the possibility to have the breather and go away and analyse and rest. But we'll be back. Looking to fight for the points in our next game, and it'll be important for us.
Just finally, a first Leicester City goal for Dennis Praet this afternoon. That was a good moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. It was quick thinking by Ayo, sends Jamie away, and probably one of the only few times that we were able to play forward with any quality. And he shows great desire to get up there and score, Dennis. So that gave us the lead in the game, but we weren't ever really in control of the game, and like I said, that was a disappointment.
Dan Bates talking to Leicester City manager Brendan Rodgers after this afternoon's 2-1 defeat at home to Southampton. Obviously, lots of fans frustrated after the defeat. Chrissy says, where's the spark gone that we had at the end of last year? Never mind, deep breath, pull your socks up and start again. Can there sometimes be a case of too much of a good thing? Because as Brendan Rodgers alluded to there, Leicester didn't deserve anything today. However, Leicester fans also haven't seen many performances like that in a long time. Mm-hmm. And when you're so used to things going so well, you can quite easily lose sight, can't you, of what was not too long ago?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? You know, obviously Brendan Rodgers didn't want his players to go out and play with a lack of energy or a lack of belief or a lack of creativity or a lack of shots on goal. And, you know, we spoke about it at length, really, haven't we, this afternoon, that, you know, sometimes that does happen. But, you know, it's happened on more than one occasion in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's difficult. You know, the fans want success. The fans have had success in the past. And they want it again. And, you know, and the club are making big statements off the pitch with the signing of Brendan Rodgers as manager, with the building of a brand new training ground, and things like that. So everybody's moving in the right direction. But when you see performances and results like that, then it does sort of make certain sections, you know, scratch your head and think, well, you know, what's going on? And I'll go back to, you know, it's a young squad. The Premier League is a mentally and physically grueling time, and especially when you're involved in 2 cup competitions and you're deep into the winter stroke Christmas New Year period. It is not easy. It's unforgiving. I'm not making that as an excuse because they all know what to get themselves into, but I think with the lack of experience and maturity in the side, and sometimes, I say, we've seen 1 or 2 players today who struggled, who have been, and I'm talking about internationals here, who struggled today. And unfortunately, from time to time, that happens. And with experience and with a few more miles under the belt, then hopefully that will take care of itself. That will be eradicated, and you will see the team becoming more consistent season by season.
Dan asked Brendan Rodgers there about the next week. A bit of time off for Leicester. Not got a game for a little while now, compared to the last couple of weeks and how relentless it's been. And Brendan Rodgers says they're all important. But you do feel as if actually this is a massive time and actually a period in the season that they could look back on and go, that was really important to getting ourselves replenished, revitalised and actually back on track.
Yeah, I mean, as always, Brendan Rodgers very honest in his assessment of how they played today, and made the point that Jerry's made, to be fair, that but he was saying, I don't want to offer it as an excuse, but the December fixtures and the amount of football we've played because of all the competitions. But he went on to say, having said that, we want to be in all these competitions because we want to be successful. But underlying that is the fact that the two games a week, really for over a month or more, does take it out of players more mentally, I think, rather than physically. And I think I'd agree with Jerry. I think it showed today that they weren't mentally sharp. I don't think physically there was a lot wrong. They were half a yard short of Southampton. But as I keep saying, I just think Southampton played above themselves because they were so fired up to make up for what had happened at St Mary's. But Leicester, because they were slightly off the pace mentally, they never really got into the game. And Brendan Rodgers is absolutely right. They didn't do enough to win the game. They didn't do enough to draw the game. But next week, he'll be looking at everything. He's got a clear week, and it'll be the first clear week he's had since sort of November time to look at the players and go through things with them, the coaching, the analysis, and get them back to where they were. And I think that's the first chance that probably he's had to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then coming up next for Leicester is Burnley at Turf Moor next Sunday. Can you see a difference in approach for that one, taking into account today and the last few performances?
Well, firstly, you've got to look at Burnley and how they're doing, and they're not doing too well, are they, Burnley, at the minute? They're struggling a little bit. So, obviously, they've got certain threats, goal threats, which we've seen when we played them here. But as far as the approach is concerned, absolutely not. There's not a lot wrong. Today was an off day, against a team that you would probably expect Leicester to beat. We haven't seen many of them, and that's what we're. I think the only other one here, which when I was in America, was the game against Norwich, who came here and played really well and went away. And even that day, they drew the game. So I can't see any reason why the approach should be any different. It's all about re-galvanising. As Brendan said, you analyse the game, you refocus the players, you boost their confidence, you get out on the training pitch, have quality time on the training pitch to go through the things you want to go through, which is what they haven't had in the last few weeks. So it's a really important week in that respect. But as far as the approach, then no, because you beat a good Burnley team here, which was a really good game, and we came out on top. You're going away to a Burnley team which in recent weeks has began to struggle and are
4 defeats on the bounce.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So they're scrapping around for points. So go there with all the intentions of winning that game, and that means playing the way you've been playing. What has got you in the position you're at? It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I think the disappointment as well, Lewis, for fans is the fact that they played Notts County in the in that League Cup semi-final first leg on Wednesday. Yeah, was it? No, Tuesday, wasn't it? Last week, and didn't play very well in that. Managed to get a 1-1 draw, and it's spilled over into today. So the fans who've packed in have seen 2 poor performances, if you like, in the space of a week.
Notts County, did you say?
Yeah,
sorry, Aston Villa. Did I say Notts County?
Yes.
Sorry. Aston
Villa.
Villa.
Right, Nev. It's all right.
Don't even sound very similar.
I don't know why. They played like Notts County. No, against Aston Villa. And the performance against that, because the defensive setup that Villa had, they couldn't break through that. Today it's been different. Southampton have played a totally opposite game to what Villa played on Tuesday. They came at Leicester. And so from a fan's perspective, they've come to 2 games and seen their side below par on both of those games. They got away with it a little bit against Villa to get that 1-1 draw, so it's wide open still for them to win and get to Wembley. But today they didn't get away with it, and Southampton deservedly won. So let's hope next week is going to be a week that Brendan Rodgers can turn things around for them.
Yeah, Mark says we got what we deserved. Too many players not on top of their game. We need a bit of new blood in. Obviously, that is the other thing about this time of year. There is this transfer opportunity. You spoke about the windows. Mm-hmm. When you talk about Leicester having such a youthful side and maybe showing a lack of maturity in these tough games that have been the last couple of weeks, can you see Brendan Rodgers trying to bring in someone more experienced?
I think when we talk about immature, I think it's the mental side of the game. The mental tiredness. Matt touched on it before he left. As far as being able to cope mentally with the stress on your body. So the answer to that is no. I think it's just, if he brings anybody in, it'll be to strengthen the squad. It'll be a player who can show those fitness levels that we've seen throughout the season so far. It's got nothing to do with, I think, the experience and the balance of the squad with experience, or experience in youth is absolutely spot on. He may bring, I wouldn't be surprised if he brings somebody in his mid-20s or something like that, but I don't think it'll be somebody, knocking on in years in his 20s. But I just think when I was talking about immature, it was dealing with what's going on at the minute. You know, the ups and downs. You know, the euphoria of reaching a semi-final on penalties. You know, and going out and beating, and then getting beat to Liverpool and winning another game, getting through in the fourth round of the FA Cup, and then you come against a team that you've just beaten 9-0 a couple of months ago. You've just been beaten by them. It's all plays on your emotions, and that's the bit you have to handle.
A bump in the road for Leicester City against Southampton at King Power Stadium. But now a time to rest and recover before being back in action against Burnley next weekend. Thanks to Jerry, thanks to Nev, and thank you for listening to LCFC Radio this afternoon. We'll see you again soon.
For more in-depth analysis, reaction and extended highlights, head to lcfc.com.